Very good morning. Wishing you a wonderful Wednesday. Welcome to today's episode of Morning Well. We'll talk about three things. Dow above 30,000 for the first time, US economic data dump, and earnings update. US stocks hit records with Dow climbing above 30,000 for the first time as the formal start of Joe Biden's transition soothed investors' nerves about the transfer of power. All three major indexes climbed at least 1.3%, while the Russell 2000 gained 1.8%. Oil briefly topped $45 a barrel in New York for the first time since March. The run has put Dow up 62% from its March low when the US Federal Reserve ended a panic that wiped out trillions of dollars in investment by outlining a plan to counter the pandemic's economic stress. Treasuries extended a global bond sell-off, sending the 10-year yields up almost 3 basis points to about 0.88. Dollar fell against most of the G10 currencies, with Aussie helping to pace gains. Gold dropped and Asian equity futures are pointing to a higher open. Travel stocks were up in the US. American Airlines, United, Southwest and Alaska Air all were up more than 3%. Sector-wise, energy was the best, 5.16%. Financials was up about 3.53%. Actually, almost all sectors were in the positive except for real estate, which was just marginally negative. Investors are cheering signs that a protracted fight over control over White House is potentially drawing to a close, reducing political risks over the next few winter months. The General Services Administration chief said Monday that her agency would provide Mr. Biden federal resources meant to assist in a smooth transfer of power. Optimism also has increased this week after it was reported that Biden plans to select former Federal Reserve Chairwoman Janet Yellen as Treasury Secretary. Yellen has said recently the recovery will be uneven and lackluster if Congress doesn't spend more to fight unemployment and keep small businesses afloat. One of Yellen's first decisions would be to potentially reactivate a series of measures to backstop credit growth that the Fed and Treasury had launched this spring. The current Treasury Secretary, Steven Mnuchin, decided last week that the programs would cease the purchase of loans or assets at the end of the year, declining an extension that had been sought by the Fed. Among all the bullish signals, one warning sign that came through was the latest survey of US consumer confidence. Consumers' view on economic outlook declined in November as coronavirus cases soared across the country. This is according to Conference Board. In other markets, the Euro Stoxx 600 was up 0.9%. Among European equities, travel stocks rose after UK government said that it would allow travelers to reduce the number of quarantine days starting December 15th if they test negative for COVID-19. Data dump Wednesday today in this holiday shortened US week. The second reading of the third quarter GDP should stay unchanged at about 33.5 is what the consensus shows, but we'll also be looking forward for details on corporate profits during the pandemic that will be released. Jobless claims will also be coming over, may edge downward to about 730K from about 742K, but there is a risk that widening restrictions could tilt the number on a higher side. Remember, last week we got the first higher print on this data. October personal income may be flat after rising about 0.9% the month before, while personal spending may climb to about 0.4%, and the core PCE deflator is looking to stay unchanged. Some earnings to digest as well. HP, the shares of the computer hardware builder, jumped more than 7% in after hours, trading on the back of stronger than expected quarterly results. HP posted earnings of about 62 cents per share on a revenue of about 15.26 billion. Analysts were expecting about 52 cents and a revenue of about 14.72 billion. The company also issued better than expected earnings guidance for its fiscal first quarter. That kind of helped the shares go up. Gap's comparable sales were better than expected, but earnings missed and company didn't provide forecasts. In fact, Gap stock was down almost 9% in after hours. Dell Technologies reported third quarter earnings and revenue figures that topped analyst expectations, sending the stock up nearly 2%. Tiffany's gross margin and adjusted EPS topped consensus, helped by the resurgence of demand in China and online. And lastly, Medtronic adjusted EPS and revenue beat, but the company declined to give guidance. Lastly, some deal news. Stripe is looking at a valuation topping 70 billion and maybe as much as 100 billion as well. The fintech startup is in talks for a new funding round. Its last private valuation came in at 36 billion. So fundamentally, they're looking to double in terms of valuation. That's the update. Stay safe and healthy. I'll speak to you tomorrow.